My son's soccer ball hit their car. I offered to pay. They screamed at him, called him a delinquent, and threatened to call CPS. That night, I pulled up our security footage. What they did a week earlier was way worse. Now I have leverage they can't ignore. This happened a couple months ago, and I'm still not sure how far it's going to go. But I haven't told anyone in real life, so I'm going to tell it here. We live in a quiet neighborhood in Spokane, Washington. We moved in 3 years ago, just a small house with a little fenced yard and a one-car driveway. It's nothing special, but we've made it feel like home. My wife and I both work. She's a nurse, I do HVAC, and our son Leo just turned 8. He's a good kid. Not perfect, but kind. Sensitive. Always drawing, kicking a ball around, talking to the neighbor's cat. He's not wild, not loud. Anyway, about 2 months ago, I came home from work and Leo was playing in the front yard. He was kicking a soccer ball against the wooden fence, just burning energy like he usually does. I parked, waved at him, walked up to the porch. Then I heard it. A loud thud, followed by a woman's voice absolutely screaming. I turned around. The soccer ball had bounced off the fence, rolled across the gravel area, and lightly tapped the rear door of our neighbor's sedan. It didn't crack anything, but yeah, I saw a little dent. Like, maybe the size of a quarter. It wasn't major. The woman, our neighbor, Mrs. Mays, stormed out of her house like a missile. She marched right up to the car, touched the spot, then pointed straight at Leo, who was frozen. "You little delinquent," she yelled. "I saw you do that. You people don't teach your kids respect." Leo just stood there. He didn't even try to talk. I think he was in shock. I walked over quickly and tried to calm things down. I said, "I'm really sorry. He didn't mean to. I'll cover the damage, of course." She looked at me like I'd spat in her face. "You better pay. And I swear to God, if I hear one more sound from that yard, I'm calling CPS. I've seen the way that boy acts." She said it loud. CPS. Right in front of him. Leo started crying. She didn't care. She kept going, telling me that our kind of parenting was going to land him in juvie. I stood there, fists clenched, doing everything in my power not to lose it. I said, "I'll get a quote and cover the repair. But please don't talk to my kid like that." She snapped, "Don't tell me what to do on my property." I pulled Leo inside. My wife came home an hour later and found him in his room, face red and silent. He wouldn't talk. Later that night, after Leo was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table just stewing. I kept thinking about what she said. The tone. The threat. She didn't just want the dent fixed. She wanted control. And I don't know what made me do it, but I opened up our home security app. We've had cameras on the front porch and back gate for about a year now, nothing fancy, just something to help us sleep better. I started scrolling through old footage. And that's when I found it. Exactly 1 week earlier, the camera picked up movement by the side fence gate around 9:12 in the morning. It was her husband, Mr. Mays. I don't know much about him. Retired maybe. Quiet. Always pretends to be friendly when we wave. On the footage, he was walking along the side of our yard. Then he stopped. He looked around, and he grabbed the gate latch. It's a latch that locks from the inside. But he was trying to open it. Not just tugging, it looked like he was testing it. He leaned in, used his elbow, even pressed his foot on the bottom of the fence post like he was trying to get leverage. He did this for almost 30 seconds before walking away. I watched that clip 5 times in a row. I remembered that my wife told me someone had messed with the hose in the garden that same week. She thought it was just an accident, maybe an animal. Now, I wasn't so sure. So now here we were. Their car got a dent the size of a bottle cap from a kid's soccer ball. I offered to pay. And instead of accepting that like a normal neighbor, she screamed at my son, called him names, and threatened to get the state involved. Meanwhile, her husband had been trying to get into our yard without permission. I showed the footage to my wife. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "This isn't just about a ball. Something's off." And I agreed. I spent that whole night thinking about what to do. Next morning, I printed a still frame of the footage, time-stamped. Then I knocked on their door. She answered. "No hello. just stared at me like she was expecting a fight. I held out the check. "For the dent," I said. She snatched it without a word. Then I said, calm as I could, "Also, this was your husband, last Wednesday, trying to open our side gate." Her face changed immediately. I showed her the still frame, then played the clip on my phone. Clear as day. Her husband, hand on the latch, trying to force it. "I haven't reported this yet," I said. "But if you ever scream at my kid again or threaten CPS, I will. And I'll make sure this video gets in front of the right people." She didn't say anything. Just stared at the phone, then at me. Then she shut the door. I stood there for a second, heart pounding, then walked back to the house. No police.
No apology.
Just silence. That was the first quiet day we'd had since we moved in.
But it didn't last.
For about a week after that, nothing happened.
No glares. No yelling.
No sarcastic comments from their porch. It was calm. Weirdly calm. Leo started playing outside again, but he stayed close to the house. Every time the ball rolled too far, he'd freeze and look over at me. That hurt more than anything else, that little hesitation. Like he was scared to exist in his own yard. My wife kept saying, "Let's just move on. You gave her the check. You showed the video. That should be enough." But it didn't feel over. It felt quiet in the way that means someone's planning something. Then the next Friday, I came home from work early. Leo was still at school. My wife was inside folding laundry. I went to take out the trash and noticed a slip of paper tucked into our mailbox.
No envelope.
Just folded in half. It wasn't a letter. It was a copy of a complaint and signed, supposedly sent to CPS. It had our names, our address, and a list of lies. Said our son was constantly unsupervised, that we let him roam the street with no shoes, that he throws rocks at cars. It said our home was unsafe and possibly neglectful. I stood there holding it, hands shaking. It wasn't an official notice from CPS, but the message was clear. They were trying to scare us. Or maybe they actually sent it, and this was just a copy to warn us what was coming. I walked straight to their house and knocked, hard. No one answered. I knocked again. Nothing. So I went home, showed it to my wife. She read it in silence, then said, "They're trying to bait us." I spent the rest of that weekend installing 2 more cameras, one facing the driveway, one toward the back gate. If they were going to escalate this, I was going to be ready. And then, things got worse. 2 mornings later, around 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I checked the feed. It was Mr. Mays. Again. He was out front, crouching by our garbage bins. At first I thought maybe he was just walking by. But then I zoomed in. He was holding something, a small black bottle. I watched him reach over and pour it into the crack between our bins and the fence post. I ran outside, but by the time I got there, he was already heading back to his property. The smell hit me before I got close. Bleach. He poured bleach into the soil along our fence line. Our son's soccer ball lands there. He picks flowers there. It's 5 feet from where we sit in the summer. I didn't say anything that morning. I saved the footage, sent it to myself in 3 different places, and called a friend who works in local law enforcement. I didn't file a report yet. I just asked a few questions. About trespassing. About intent. About environmental hazards. He said, "If you've got proof he poured chemicals near where your kid plays, that's enough to open something. Maybe not arrest, but definitely a report." So now I had 2 videos. First, trying to open our gate. Now, dumping chemicals on our side of the property line. And still, not a word from them.
No explanation. No apology.
Nothing. I didn't sleep much that night. Neither did my wife. We sat up in the living room, watching the motion alerts on our phones, just waiting for another one to pop. Around midnight, I said, "This isn't just a crazy neighbor thing anymore. They're doing this on purpose. They're trying to make us snap." And that's when I decided. If they wanted a fight, they were going to get one. I wasn't just going to react. I was going to push back. But not loudly. Quiet. Careful. The kind of pushback that makes them question if they ever should have started. First thing Monday morning, I went to the hardware store. I bought a new lock for the gate. A better one. Heavy duty with a latch that's completely inaccessible from the outside. Then I bought a no trespassing sign and stuck it right by the garden. Not subtle, not polite, just clear. That same afternoon, I emailed the video of Mr. Mays dumping the bleach to a lawyer I knew through a mutual friend. I didn't say much, just that I was seeking advice on how to protect my property and my kid. He responded within hours. Keep documenting. Don't confront them again. Let them make the next mistake. So that's what I did. Every time I saw them outside, I just watched. Every time Leo played outside, I stayed close. I didn't wave.
Didn't yell.
Didn't say a word. Then, 2 days later, something strange happened. A white pickup truck pulled into their driveway. A guy in work boots got out, looked around, then started unloading tools. Concrete mix, measuring tape, gloves. They were building something. By the end of the day, he'd poured a small concrete slab right up against the edge of their property line, right next to our fence. I couldn't tell what it was for. That night, while checking our front camera, I saw Mrs. Mays outside with a tape measure, walking back and forth from the slab to our fence. She kept scribbling in a notebook, then staring at our house like she was calculating something. My stomach turned. I started Googling things like, how close can a structure be to a neighbor's fence, and property line disputes, Washington state. Then I saw it. There's a state regulation about permanent fixtures being a certain distance from the boundary line unless both parties agree. And if they build too close, that's considered encroachment. And, yeah, it can lead to a civil case. So, I dug deeper. I found the county's property survey maps. It took me an hour, but I found the exact layout of our lots. And guess what? That new slab they poured? It overlapped the line by about 2 feet into our property. So now they'd threatened my kid, try to enter our yard, poured bleach near our house, filed a fake CPS complaint, and now they were building on our land. That was it. I made copies of everything, the videos, the property line maps, the complaint letter, even a screenshot of her measuring in the dark, and dropped them into a folder. Then I filed a report. I went to the police station that Friday with everything printed, labeled, and organized. The officer who took my statement was calm and professional. She asked a lot of questions, took notes, asked me to send her the digital copies. Before I left, she looked at the bleach footage one more time and said, "You were smart to install those cameras. Keep them running." I told her we had 3 more angles going up that weekend. When I got home, I didn't say much. I just picked Leo up from school, helped him with homework, and let him sleep in our bed that night. He asked, "Did I do something wrong with the ball?" And I told him, "No, you did nothing wrong." And for once, I believed it all the way through. Now I wait. The footage, the report, the lawyer, it's all in motion. But I've learned something in the last few weeks. Silence from people like the Mays doesn't mean peace. It means they're thinking, plotting, and trying to see how far they can go before someone pushes back. Well, I'm pushing now. And they don't even know how deep this goes yet. About 3 days after filing the report, I got a call. It wasn't CPS. It wasn't the police. It was the city zoning office. The man on the phone introduced himself politely, said he was doing a routine follow-up on a property line complaint filed for our street. Not by us, but connected to us. He didn't say who filed it, but I didn't need to ask. He told me there was a request for a land survey to verify boundary integrity between properties 1438 and 1440. That's us and the Mays. He said the city hadn't approved any recent changes or structures, and he was just verifying that no construction had occurred without a permit. So now I knew what they were doing, trying to preemptively cover their tracks. I told him calmly, "Yes, our neighbor poured a concrete slab last week. It extends at least 2 feet into our side of the property." He paused, then said, "All right, that's helpful. We'll send someone out." Less than 24 hours later, a city truck pulled up outside. A young guy got out, set up some flags, and started measuring. I stayed inside, watched from the window. About an hour later, he knocked on our door. "Just a heads up," he said. "You were right. There's slab cuts into your lot. That's not allowed unless there's a shared access agreement, which I don't see recorded anywhere." I said, We didn't agree to anything. He nodded and said, well, they're gonna need to fix that. That night, I checked the camera feed again. Mrs. Mays came out with a flashlight around 1:30 a.m. She walked around the slab, phone in hand, whispering to someone. Couldn't tell who.
Couldn't hear what she said.
But the next morning, the slab was gone. I'm not exaggerating, gone. Not broken up. Not left as rubble. Just gone. Smoothed over, like nothing was ever there. I went out and checked. The dirt had been freshly packed down. A few clumps of concrete remained, but they tried to erase it. Quietly. Overnight. But I had pictures. I had the footage. I had the survey report. So I sent all of it to the zoning office and CC'd the officer who took my original police report. I didn't get a reply. But that was fine.
It was documented.
And just when I thought they'd finally start backing off, something even stranger happened. 2 days later, Leo came running inside after school, holding something. Dad, he said, eyes wide. This was in my backpack. I didn't put it there. It was a small envelope. No name. No writing. Inside was a folded piece of paper and $20. The note said, mistakes happen, but some kids don't know when to stop. Maybe a little discipline would help. I read it twice. My wife read it too. I asked Leo, did anyone come near your bag? He said, I left it by the bench during recess, like I always do. We called the school. They checked the cameras and confirmed nothing obvious, just a few kids walking by. No adults near the backpack area. But I knew it was them. I didn't even care about the money. It was the message. The fact that they got close enough to slip a note and cash into my son's school backpack. They crossed a line I didn't think anyone would cross. So now this wasn't just about property or yelling or bleach. This was about Leo. And they were going to regret making him part of their game. After that note showed up in Leo's backpack, everything shifted for me. Up until then, I'd tried to handle things the right way. Paperwork, cameras, reports. Keep it clean. Keep it legal. But that envelope? That cash? That smug little line about discipline? That made it personal. They didn't just go after our fence or throw bleach near our garden. They went after my son. On school grounds. Slipped something into his stuff. Which means they either followed him there or they knew someone who could. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with the envelope in front of me, just staring at it. Leo was asleep on the couch with cartoons still playing low on the TV. My wife sat across from me with her arms crossed, eyes red. She said, what kind of people do this? I didn't answer. I got up and called the school first thing the next morning. Told them I needed a meeting immediately. Principal, security officer, anyone who could listen. I brought the note, the 20, the screenshots of the fence footage, a printed timeline of everything we'd dealt with since the first dent in their car. They took it seriously. The principal said, we'll involve district security. If we confirm anyone accessed student belongings, we'll escalate this. She promised to alert CPS herself. But on our behalf, that part hit me hard. After everything they'd threatened, now we were the ones being protected. But I still didn't feel safe. Because people like the Mays? They don't stop when you follow rules. They only stop when they're afraid of what comes next. So I took it one step further. I reached out to a local neighborhood Facebook group I hadn't touched in years. I didn't give names. Just posted. Has anyone else dealt with neighbors tampering with property, pouring chemicals near gardens, or threatening families over small issues? Would love to hear your stories. Within an hour, I had 6 replies. Then 10. By the end of the day, 17. And 2 of those were about the Mays. One guy wrote, they tried to accuse my son of stealing tools from their shed. He was 9. Never even touched their yard. Another woman messaged me privately. Said, they complained to the HOA when I parked too close to the curb. Called my boss somehow. Got my work number from my bumper sticker. That's when I knew. We weren't their first target. And we wouldn't be the last, unless someone stopped them. So I started collecting every one of those stories. Asked each person if they'd be willing to put it in writing.
Even just a short statement.
Most said yes. One guy even had a voicemail Mrs. Mays left on his phone from last year, calling his teenage daughter a tramp because of how she dressed walking to the bus stop. I asked him to send it.
He did.
At this point, I had security footage of attempted entry video of chemical dumping, screenshot of property encroachment, official city survey proving violation, the envelope, and note slipped into my kid's backpack, witness statements from other neighbors, a recorded voicemail of verbal abuse. It was more than leverage. It was a file. A full-on case. I brought it all to the police again. This time, I asked to speak to a supervisor. Took everything in a folder, clean and clear. The officer reviewed it, then nodded slowly. Said, "We can open this. Stalking. Harassment. Potential child endangerment. It'll take time. But this isn't nothing." I walked out of that station finally feeling like the weight had shifted. Like maybe, just maybe, they'd finally pushed one family too far. But that night, the doorbell rang. Around 10:45 p.m. No knock. Just a single ring.
Quick.
I checked the camera feed before I even got off the couch. There was an envelope on the porch. No one in sight. No car, no footsteps, nothing. Inside the envelope was a single photo. It was Leo, sitting on the swing set at school. Taken from behind the fence. A long zoom. No message. No cash. Just that. They weren't done. Not even close. I stared at that photo for a long time. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was rage. The kind that doesn't flash hot and disappear, the kind that settles into your chest and burns slow. They didn't say anything this time. No fake apology, no $20 bill, no threats pretending to be advice.
Just a picture of my son.
Alone. At school. Taken from a distance. That wasn't a warning. That was a message. We know where he is. We can watch him whenever we want. I showed my wife. She didn't speak. Just sat down at the table and stared at the picture like she was waiting for it to start burning. I saved it. Photographed the envelope. Sent it to the officer handling our case and to our lawyer. That same night, I bought 2 more outdoor cameras, high-res, motion-activated with night vision. I installed one under the mailbox and one in the tree near the front gate. Overkill? Maybe. But I wasn't taking any more chances. By the weekend, the principal from Leo's school called. She told me the district had conducted a review of campus security after my report. They were updating access protocols, installing new locks on the perimeter gates. But she also told me something else. "We found evidence on a campus visitor log," she said. "Someone matching Mr. Mays' description signed in last Thursday. Said he was picking up materials for a community grant project. Left after 10 minutes. No official project exists under that name." That's the day the photo was taken. They used the school's open visitor hours to walk right up to the field, take a picture, and leave. And nobody knew what they were really doing. I didn't even tell Leo about the photo. I couldn't. He was finally starting to relax again. Sleeping through the night. Laughing more. Drawing little comics about soccer and dinosaurs. I wasn't about to take that from him. But I kept watching. Kept recording. Kept stacking evidence like bricks in a wall I planned to drop on them. Then something unexpected happened. On a random Tuesday morning, a small white car pulled into our driveway. A woman stepped out, clipboard in hand.
CPS.
I stepped outside before she could knock. She introduced herself politely. Said someone filed an anonymous complaint about our child's welfare. She had to do a basic visit just to check off the boxes. I invited her in. Showed her the house. The fridge. Leo's room. His drawings on the walls. She asked him a few questions gently. He didn't seem scared, just confused. When she left, she handed me a card and said, "Off the record. I've seen this before. A lot of times it's a neighbor with a grudge. You're doing everything right. Just keep records." As soon as she pulled away, I knew. The Mays were still trying. They weren't satisfied with fake letters. Or chemicals. Or threatening notes. They were still trying to get CPS involved, even after the police, the footage, the slab. And even now they were careful. Never direct. Never signed. Always quiet. But I had a wall of proof now. And I was ready to use it. I just needed the right moment, one more step from them. One more miscalculation. And then, finally, I'd show them what it feels like to be cornered. To feel watched. To know someone saw everything you did and didn't forget. Last week, I finally got a call from the detective. He said, "We're moving forward." That's all. No guarantees, no promises, just a step. I hung up and sat at the kitchen table with the folder in front of me, same one I'd built piece by piece. Leo was outside kicking his soccer ball again. For the first time in weeks, I didn't tell him to be careful. I just watched. And I realized this isn't over. Maybe it never will be. But I know one thing now. I'm not just protecting him from them. I'm protecting him from the silence. The kind that says, stay small. Don't fight back. Just take it. I'm done taking it. They started this over a dent. But I'm the one who won't bend. And that's something they never planned on.